And then you look at the things that my father-in-law actually did when he was in office. Look at what he did for Israel. Look at the fact that he was the only president, although so many before him had promised, to move the American embassy to Jerusalem in Israel. He got it done. Recognizing the Golan Heights, he got it done.
All right, everybody, welcome to episode number 30. I believe this is 6 of Mislaibeled. Here coming to you from Florida. Have a very, very special guest with us. We're going to get to her in 1 second. Before we get to her, if you're watching this, please like, subscribe, and comment. Guys, let's be real. We're coming out with you pod after pod with just absolute fire content. There's no getting around it. Let's just talk. For the Orthodox community, we're absolutely killing it. For the Jewish community, we're killing it. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and tell us how you like this and what your thoughts are on this podcast. Number 2, this episode is sponsored by ENA Tax Advisors. ENA Tax Advisors is a tax strategy company that helps you limit your tax liability. This is applicable for 1099 and self-employed people. This is applicable primarily for people making six digits or north. Guys, I've used them myself. Truly, they really, really helped me save a lot of money. I've had a lot of people that have called me telling me, thank you so much for letting me know who these people are, because they've helped me save a lot of money. And I wouldn't ever suggest something that I personally have not used and have not benefited from. So you have my word that these people are the people to call. It's a free consultation also. You literally lose nothing. Give them a call. They give you 30 minutes free. If it's something they can help you with, they will help you. If not, they will just tell you they can't help you, and you'll be good. You'll go pay Uncle Sam all your taxes. All right, guys. On to our guest. All right, this is a big one, guys. I think this is definitely number 1. There's not a
no.
Yeah.
Stop it. Is this a
Lara,
tax show, by the way?
Laura, you're number 1. I mean, we are Jewish, so
we're Jewish. So.
I need to get some notes if that's what we're doing. I didn't know.
No, not at all. All right, guys, we have with us the one and only Lara Trump, Eric Trump's wife, the former President Donald Trump's daughter-in-law. First of all, I just want to say I'm honored, I'm humbled, and grateful for you to be sitting with us. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, it's a great honor for me, too. It's not every day. I got people in the clubhouse at Trump Jupiter just hanging out, talking. It's really awesome. And I love what you guys are doing, and I love the whole idea behind this podcast, who you are. I like the sense of humor, and we haven't even started. This is just beforehand, so let's see. What are we going to do here?
Yeah, no, it's a shame that we didn't get. It's a shame we didn't get on what we were talking about.
I know. We sort of did the whole show before we did the show,
Right?
So sorry to everybody. That's it. No, I'm just kidding.
I always talk about that. Like before the pod, I tell the guys all the time. I'm like, guys, don't have too much fun.
It's so hard.
It is.
I
It's
know.
hard, especially if you're vibing. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, we were vibing. Like, we're just going for like 20 minutes before we start because the tech team is getting everything going, and we're just like already rolling. But all right, listen, I'm not going to stop a good conversation, obviously, for the pod, but I do want to get into a couple of things just to give some people who are watching a little bit of background.
Yeah.
Could you just give us a little bit of an idea of, obviously, before you've been in the Trump family now for some time. This is not like a new thing that you joined a year ago. When did you start dating Eric?
Oh my gosh, 2008.
2008. So you've been part of this situation for some time.
Yeah.
What are we going on? 23, 15 years.
That's some good math. See, look at that there.
It's a lot. He's good with math.
He's good.
He's very good.
I love that.
So you've been part of this 15 years, but before this all happened, growing up, where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Carolina. I grew up a very normal person. I mean, I would say that my life was probably like most kids in America. I grew up in southeastern North Carolina. Wilmington is the bigger city. I went to public elementary, middle, and high school. I went to a state college, and my parents were small business owners. You know, I had everything I ever needed, not everything I ever wanted growing up, which is probably a great way to exist. And I really, my parents still live in the same house I came home from the hospital to. So
really?
Never moved. Yeah. And,
wow.
and so many of my friends are still there. My brother recently moved back like 3 miles from my parents' house. So that's my crew there. That's home for me. Home for me is North Carolina. Always has been, always will be.
You said that you grew up with everything you ever needed, not everything you ever wanted. And that's probably the better way to do it. Why do you feel that way?
I think that I look at having so much and access to everything is typically a bad thing. I mean, I look at kids today. It's hard even with my kids. My kids are 3 and 5. I mean, first of all, they're growing up with the last name Trump. So that adds a whole layer to their upbringing, how they'll be treated, how people will view them. And I think having something to strive towards my whole life, not having everything I wanted immediately at my fingertips, was probably a good thing because it gave me a drive. It gave me a work ethic. It gave me things to look forward to and goals to achieve. And so for me and for my brother, I think it was great because, look, again, we never wanted for anything because we had like all the basics. We had a beautiful house. We had a loving family. We had all the things we needed. But truly, I think I'm trying to do that with my kids, and it's very hard these days. Very hard for anybody, I think. It's hard to do that.
I can imagine that. Are there any, honestly, like your kids are growing up, obviously, like you said, with the last name Trump. How are you managing that, like from a practical sense? Of
Well, you know what? My kids are young. They're 3 and 5. And so I think, we already started with like, they've got to do chores. They got to take the trash out. There's certain little things that they're going to do. And then I'll tell you, when my kids are 13, 14 years old, whatever the legal age is, because, I say anything that's illegal, they're going to come after me. DOJ is going to come straight to my house. They'll bust down my door 5 a.m. tomorrow, and that'll be it. But whenever they're of legal age to work and they can work at some of the properties, I want them working. I want them doing all the jobs that, by the way, my father-in-law had my husband Eric doing, had his brother doing. They were all like mowing grass. They were at the job sites. They were working with the carpenters. They were working with the electricians, learning about all aspects of the company, but also having to work and earn their own money. And believe it or not, there was a time when having the last name Trump was not a great thing, because my husband tells me all the time, I used to go to 7-Eleven and spend, like, my mom would give me X amount of money a week, and that was it. Once it was up in boarding school, that was it for them.
Could you expound on that? Why was it not? Why you said there was a point in time when it was not a great thing? What do you mean by that?
I mean, I think then, he graduates from college and you come work for the Trump organization, and there's a lot of upward trajectory, so to speak, from there. Things probably turned around monetarily a bit for him. But you have to remember, my husband's mom, Ivana, was from the communist Czech Republic. And so she grew up really under communism. Things were not available to her like they are here in America. And I think having that mentality and having that upbringing really turned out some great kids in my husband and his siblings. And it's funny because I think back to, I think it was Vice President Mike Pence, who during his, I believe, RNC speech in 2016 said something along the lines of, you can judge a tree by the fruit it bears. Yeah. And the Trump children are some of the greatest people I've ever met.
I was going to say that, actually, by the way. Ivana, everyone talks about Ivana like she was, first of all, an absolute queen.
Yeah.
Like, that is like, nobody kind of disagrees with that. No matter what you think about your father-in-law, right, left, no matter what, Ivana was like a queen. What was it like? I know she just passed. What was it like for your husband when she passed?
I mean, I think that this has been a tough year. I think the first year is probably the toughest for people. We just had Mother's Day, which I think was really probably an extra layer of it. But I think no matter who you are, your mom has a special place in your heart, and certainly for the entire family, but for my husband and his brother and sister, it's been tough, and I'm sure anyone can appreciate that. For me, I think it's really sad that my kids won't know her as well as they otherwise could have, And the really sad part is, because of COVID, we didn't see her as much in like the year leading up to her passing as we probably otherwise would have. But for them, look, they're going to learn a lot about their grandmother. They called her Ivana Ma. The internet's a beautiful place sometimes, and so certainly they'll get to see everything she did and all the photos and all the incredible achievements she had. So
she was a skier, right? Like
she was a Czech Olympic skier.
Yeah, Czech Olympic.
That's how she, I guess, initially escaped from communism. She moved to Canada to train for the Olympics and never went back to the Czech Republic, and ultimately ended up meeting a guy named Donald Trump, and the rest is history.
That's some craziness.
You yourself have Canadian. Something Canadian, right?
I have my cousin married a guy from Canada.
That's all? Okay.
Yeah.
I thought.
Did you think there was more? Did I say A or something on the way in here?
No, I could have sworn that when I did research that said that your father's business was in Canada.
Oh, No, not unless
Wow.
he's hiding something from me. I have to call my dad after that.
Yeah, I think you need to have a long talk with him.
Yeah, we need to get to the bottom of
And
that.
that's Mislabeled's research
everything
for
he
you.
knows to come.
We dug deep. I
dug real deep.
We
Yeah.
really went way
No, I was on
down.
call with FBI like right before this.
Don't worry, they're already at the door.
Yeah, they're probably backing their cars
That's
up.
amazing.
Talking about the FBI and the DOJ. You mentioned before that, like, depending on what you say, like,
Oh, yeah.
I gotta understand this. How are you not living a life of total paranoia and fear, and like, especially with what has happened? I mean,
Yeah.
your father-in-law Mar-a-Lago got busted into because of obviously what was the official accusations? The
Documents.
The documents.
Classified
I
documents.
mean,
Classified
you could be the
documents.
former president of the United
Yeah.
States, having been out of office for 2 years, and they're already busting down your doors. How do you live with that notion of, like, you look left, you look right, you don't know what you're going to see next?
Well, I think the really scary part is it doesn't really matter if you've done something wrong or not, because people can construe a story and put it together and make. I mean, look at what's happening with the district attorney Alvin Bragg in Manhattan.
Yeah.
This was not a crime. There was no crime committed by my father-in-law. You have a guy who's allowing criminals to literally tear apart New York City.
Yeah.
It is horrific there. The crime is through the roof. And he's having to go back and statute of limitations. I mean, you could go through the whole, like, all of it. But to form something into a crime that wasn't a crime, it's crazy. So it is hard to sometimes think, like, well, gosh, it doesn't matter if I follow all the rules. But, you know, we follow all the rules. We're good people. You think that if at this point a man like Donald Trump had done truly anything wrong, having a company for decades, if there was anything he had truly done wrong, he would be in jail.
Yeah, they would've nailed him.
Don't kid yourself. And so, I mean, look, we live a good, clean life. We're good people. You know, there's no photos you'll ever find of us on a laptop, you know, doing crack and with a bunch of hookers or any of that. So, you know, we just got to keep the faith that the right thing happens. And I think for all of us in our family, I always believe that ultimately, no matter what it is, you know, the all of the truth will ultimately be revealed.
Will be prevail.
Yeah.
I want to say one thing.
Actually.
You were talking about faith for a second. You're like, I think it's possible you're a devout Christian, right?
I am a Christian, yes.
Right. So how does your faith intertwine with the anxiety, the paranoia, all that other stuff? Like, that's got to be something that, like, keeps you grounded. Talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely. I mean, I think for us and our family, and I speak about Eric and our 2 kids, I mean, we pray every night with our kids, and that's something that we've done. This is a tradition. Before our kids go to bed at night, we have them say what they're grateful for. But for me, look, if there's anything that a problem I can't solve, anything that's weighing on me, I pray about it. And it is certainly something that I think is always in the back of my mind. I think so much of what's going on in our country is bigger than all of us. I think at some point I kind of feel like there is a spiritual warfare of sorts at play whenever you see how much crazy stuff is going on. It really feels at some point like good versus evil. And again, I know I'm a good person. I follow my heart. I follow my gut. I do what I think is right. And certainly faith has played a big role in that for sure.
Would you say, so it sounds like your family with Eric is pretty religious, but like Eric didn't really grow up that religious, right? Like Donald didn't really raise his kids that religious, did he?
Yeah, I mean, I think their mom was probably a little more religious. She was Catholic, and so I think they often would go to mass with her and attend church services with her. But I certainly think that, you know, people have this conception of my father-in-law that I don't think is true, and I think faith is actually very important to him as well. I believe that much like me, when he has a problem, I believe he prays about it. And I do think, I mean, if anybody follows their gut and follows their instincts, it's Donald Trump. For sure. I mean, if there's one thing you can
shoot from the hip.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I do think that, you know, he sees, like so many of us see, that there's so much he's had against him. It would almost be unbelievable that he's been as successful as he has been without, you know, his faith, without the aid of a higher power. And so I think, look, I can speak for my family because, you know, we do this every day. But I think that, you know, people have this idea that maybe he's not, you know, what he says he is. I disagree with that. I think that he prays, and I think it's very important to him, his religion.
One thing, I just want to circle back a little bit, just to kind of mimic what you were saying a little bit regarding the Alvin Bragg investigation. I think anyone with the head on their shoulders, it's very obvious that it's a total witch hunt. I don't even think that's a question. You can't honestly look at that and be it's obvious. And like you said, they've been trying, let's be real, they've been trying to get him for 10 years.
Of course.
10 years.
Yeah.
If they had something legit, they would have gotten him already. They have nothing. And like you said, by the way, just to double down, what is actually going on right now with the Biden family, specifically, the actual factual evidence that's on the table is significantly more compelling and incriminating than anything that is going on the Trump side. As far as from a legal standpoint, you cannot like Trump. You know, your father-in-law, you cannot like anything about him. But just from a factual standpoint, there's really no way to get around that. So that's something that I definitely agree with you. When he started running in, again, you married her in 2014.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
we had about 6 months of just
peace.
I want to say
peace and bliss.
I don't want to use like normalcy, but normalcy, so to speak. Yes.
So all of a sudden, again, he came down that escalator in when, 15 or 16?
June of 2015.
So you have about a year up till 15, and you already know that he's probably like thinking about this, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he's insane and like there's no chance that this is happening? Do you see what happens in the ensuing year and a half before he actually wins? Do you have any dream in the world that this is about to take place?
You mean after he announced?
Both, I guess.
Yeah,
before, after.
I think for all of us in our family, none of us were political. None of us had ever done anything in politics. And really, we were so naive looking back. I remember we had a dinner, our whole family, with my father-in-law for his birthday. His birthday, by the way, is Flag Day, June 14th. Like, how appropriate is that, right?
He's a Gemini like I am. Go ahead.
Oh, excuse me. Didn't know we were getting into that, but I love
saying.
it. Great. I'm a Libra. Just throwing it out for the
Tell
record.
your father-in-law, please, we have similarities.
Oh, okay. Love it. Well, happy birthday, I guess.
I'm not there yet.
I have 4 days.
I have a week.
Coming soon.
Week. Yeah.
But we had a dinner for his birthday, and that's where we really talked about, this was like 2 days before he announced he was running, we really talked about what was about to happen. And I remember him saying, he said, you know, this isn't just going to be about me. This is going to be about all of us as a family. It's going to impact all of us. This campaign and election, they're not going to make it easy for us. We're going to find out quickly who our friends are and who are not our friends. And I remember listening to this and I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And he said, you know, if anybody has any concerns, like now's the time to talk about it. And we were all like, yeah, we're on board for that. This is great. And then he came down the escalator. The Mexicans' comments got immediate coverage and very negative. And I mean, for me, I actually at the time worked for Inside Edition. I was a producer for Inside Edition. And so I went back, I took the morning off of work to go there for the announcement. And then I came back at like 1 o'clock or something to the office, and it was like pandemonium. Everybody freaking out, everybody trying to find like the worst photos of Donald Trump to put out there. And let's take all the sound bites that are horrible. And I was like, wait a minute, there was a lot of good stuff in there too. It was like crazy how quickly things changed and how quickly I saw the other side of the media. And it was shocking. And we all got a quick education, obviously, in politics. It was crazy, though. You're asking, you know, like, how was it? Did we think that it was going to happen, right? Like, honestly, it was hard to really put all of our eggs in that basket because everybody said it was impossible.
Yeah.
But then we'd go around the country, and I was like, what is going on? People are coming to see me. Like 1,000 people showed up to where I'm speaking today, and who am I?
You yourself?
Me.
Wow.
I was like, what is going on here? And so every time we would like, my husband would be in like Wisconsin, and I would be in Florida, and we would call each other at the end of the day, and I'd be like, how was your day? And he'd be like, I had 3,000 people show up. And I'd be like, I had 1,500 people show up. And I was like, what is going on here? This is crazy. Something is happening that they're not talking about. So we felt it. But yeah, I mean, up until the end, who knew? Can
I ask you one question?
Yeah.
Your father clearly, undisputedly, tapped into something going on in the country that no one tapped into. Like he literally pressed on a button within people that, you know, woke people up, or at least people felt like they were being heard. What was that button that he was pressing on that people were trying to get out, that he was the voice that got it out to the world for? Specifically what?
Honestly, I think a lot of it was like his anti-PC like nature. People were, you know, think about Obama. Obama, whether you like him or not, was one of the great orators of our time. Like, this guy definitely can deliver a speech. Yeah. I mean, man, can he. But you know that's not how he is all the time, right? Like, everyone knows that. There was the political way he acted, the presidential way he acted, and then there was probably the way he talked and acted behind the scenes. Donald Trump was the exact same guy on both sides of the coin. And I think for people, that was so refreshing. I think he talked like people all talk every day, and he said the things that people were thinking, but no one felt they could actually articulate, because you would be called a God knows what. Like, people would think you're a horrible person. And he really kind of stood up finally for America. And I think for so many people, they were like, well, you know what, if I don't live on one of the coasts, if I live in the middle of the country, I've sort of been forgotten about. But it's incredible that a guy like Donald Trump, a billionaire from New York City, could really, like you're saying, tap into whatever it was. I just think he was a breath of fresh air for people. I think no one saw him coming. No one took him seriously. And because of that, he really had nothing to lose. So he just went out and did what he knows best, said what was on his mind, and people responded to it.
Yeah, it's funny because you said something before that people that he said at the dinner that you guys were around when he gave you kind of like last shot of saying, like, spell out your concerns, that he said that, you know, we're going to find out who likes us and who hates us. Well, I heard, I mean, it's probably a famous story or infamous story, however you want to look at it, that he was, right before he came down the escalator, that he said that. The same idea. Like, he turned to Jared and your husband and Don is like, well, it's game time, let's rock and roll. Again, this stuff of, you know, they talk about it like the stuff of legends type of thing, like, here we go. But I wanted to ask you one other thing specifically, is that obviously your father-in-law, a lot of people refer to him as like someone who basically, for the most part, kept every single promise he said he was going to do. Like, if he said, I'm going to do it, he at least tried to do it. It didn't make a difference if it went through, if it didn't went through, he tried. Like, obviously, Obamacare didn't fully repeal, but he tried. He did everything he could within his power. Again, no one person could do everything. So, southern border, right? That was his jam. And it seems like, undisputedly, again, he curbed, like, according to all statistics, not like if you're right or left, kind of like ISIS, right? The caliphate was there, and then it was no longer. With the southern border, all of a sudden, it's gone. It's not like the problem has shrunk significantly. Now, all of a sudden, right, clearly, it's another huge disaster. Do you think that there's a concerted effort, I'm curious, I'm thinking out loud, that if Texas flips, Republicans winning an election, I mean, could virtually be over. That's a huge, huge, huge state. Do you think there could be an aspect to where the left is specifically trying to just let in whoever they could, give them the citizenship, right, in the next 5 to 10 years, and they could potentially control America for a very, very long time until there's any other foreseeable future of where that would change? If Texas flips, what is it, 35? It's a lot.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Is there a potential for, is there anyone thinking that in your world?
I mean, why else would you just open the doors to this country? Why else would you not want voter ID laws? It is insane what's going on. And so you either have one of two options. Either it's that, like you're saying, they're assuming that everyone they let in will be so grateful to the Democrats for having let them illegally enter America, and you don't have any voter ID laws, so literally anyone can just go vote in any time, apparently, that they will, in perpetuity, vote for the Democrats. Or you have people who truly hate America so much and want to see it fundamentally transformed, which are not my words, those are the words of Joe Biden, fundamentally transform America, that one way to do it is to just kind of make this an unrecognizable country. You get rid of all borders, you know, kind of put us in a weak spot on the world stage. It's a more globalist type of situation here in America, just free flow of people, you know, whatever. Those are the only two options I think so many of us can conceive at this point. Why else would you do this? You have fentanyl that is literally killing the youth of this country. 100,000 people a year are dying from fentanyl poisoning. You think about what people actually have to go through on the journey to the southern border. The statistic used to be a third of women are raped. It is pretty much 95% of women are raped on the way up to our southern border. It is treacherous. People die all the time. And the only reason they're coming is because they know now's the time, because Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are in charge and they can stay in this country.
I wanted to ask something about that, though, because you talk about that fundamentally that Biden talks about fundamentally changing America. That they hate America and they want to fundamentally change it. What is this to you? Because other people would characterize that differently. They would say we're making America more America-like. What is this America you speak of that you don't want changed?
Well, I think that you can't have the same country we've lived in and we've had for 250 years if you don't have laws that are followed. You can't have the same country if you don't have borders, if you don't know who's in your country. You can't do things like just let people in illegally and then the rest of the people are supposed to go through some kind of process. That's not fair. You know, you asked me, by the way, about Canada. Funny enough, my cousin married a guy from Canada, and I'll tell you the process he had to go through to become a United States citizen was really intense. They spent a lot of money.
Well, we really hate Canadians.
They spent a ton of money on all of these immigration attorneys. The process is really long and drawn out. He was very upset because he didn't have the ability to vote in the 2020 election, and all he wanted to do was be a United States citizen and vote in that election. And so I think for me, you know, and for a lot of people, we are a country of laws. We are a country of borders. And if you just throw that to the wind and say, well, never mind, we're not going to enforce these laws, well, then why do any of the rest of the laws matter, I think, to a lot of people? And that's the problem that I personally have, and I think a lot of people have with what we see going on at the southern border right now. That you just can't have it, you know?
What is that advantage? I'm truly just trying to understand this, not to belabor this point too much. What is that advantage, outside of what I said, to, let's say, the current Biden administration? And I'm not trying to just like say that for sure bet. I have no idea. What could possibly be that advantage of just having an open border, of just people just pouring in? What is the pot? Like, why would anyone not just stop that from an American standpoint? Like, we are a country where we don't want people coming in who we don't know.
Right. Well,
Could there be another logical explanation?
I think that there's a bit of an issue with the left because they, you know, the left generally operates in emotion, right? I mean, a lot of times their selling points to their base is emotion based, right? And so it is a very nice thing to say, we want to help people. And of course we want to help people. Of course, if there are true refugees and people who really need asylum, we want to help them. Like, there's no doubt. But people are abusing this system right now. People are coming here from countries all over the world, and they are not following our laws. They're given court dates that are in like 2027. I think it's something like 2 or 3% of people actually bother to show up for these court dates. You think they're going to show up in 2027? Like, give me a break.
Yeah. Sounds like traffic tickets in New York.
Yeah.
Speeding tickets in New York.
Speeding tickets in New York, you just like push it off.
I think, you know, the problem is there was so much that was put in the basket of like, let's be anti-Trump. Let's say that we don't want to build a wall. Let's say he's a bad guy because he wants to protect our southern border. Well, now here we are, and the other side of the coin is just let everybody in. Otherwise, how do you stop people? How do you say, well, we're going to stop these people now, but we said Donald Trump was bad when he did it. Oh, we said Donald Trump was bad whenever the kids in cages. It's all happening at such a crazy rate right now. And part of it is because I assume they could turn around as well and say to their, you know, base of voters, well, we're good people. Look, we let everybody in. Look, we're nice. We're the nice ones. Yeah. So that's all I can assume.
Two things. It happens to me. It's funny. A lot of this reminds me, in 2019, I do real estate. I broker real estate. A lot of this actually reminds me of 2019 when in New York City, they actually changed the law specifically on rent-stabilized apartments, whatever, specific segment, which would make up like 1 million of the 1.5 million apartments in New York. But they basically made it the landlords can't raise their rents at all. No matter if they put money into the apartment, no matter, basically nothing. And people were very excited about it. You can imagine. Everyone was very, very happy. Oh, rent can't be raised. Now the problems are starting to happen. When there's a leak in their apartment, the landlord's like, nah, not changing. They're like, what's that advantage to me to change it? So I think the question always has to be asked. I had a friend tell me this also. Like, the question has to be asked when you're trying to change something of why was it that way in the first place? Once you identify why it was a specific way in the first place, then you could figure out if the answer that you're proposing fixes and helps the answer of why you had it the way it was in the first place. So,
and not to get, I know we'll get off of like immigration, but whenever you just have people coming into this country, a lot of them with nowhere to go, a lot of them really, I mean, unable to legally work here. How are they going to support themselves? Think about the systems that are taxed, our healthcare system, our educational system. truly, if you just let everyone in who wants to come here without some system and without a plan in place, it really is a disastrous thing over a period of time for our country.
Honestly, I don't think that's not God forbid in a way to put it. I just think that's very common sense. Like, anytime you're trying to have a lot of things happen at once, a lot of people are coming anywhere at once, you need to have a system in place. So I don't think that's very. I think that makes a lot of sense. One other thing, specifically, right now with the Biden campaign administration.
It is campaign season. We are getting in the swing of things.
Campaign as well. I mean, that much
Biden is campaigning.
I know,
and I can't wait to see that this time around. Let me tell you.
I was going to say, if he wasn't based on last campaign, I don't know what campaign he's going to be doing on this one. But here's my question: do you actually think in this administration Biden is the one calling the shots?
I mean, who does? Does anyone actually think that?
Right. So you're for sure not.
I would be shocked if he was calling all these shots.
Right.
Shocked. No, I mean, this is a guy who has a hard time reading off of a teleprompter when it's written out right in front of him. To a lot of people, they see that and they say, wait a minute, this is a little frightening. Do we really believe this is the individual in charge of America?
So who do you think is calling the shots?
That's the $1 million question.
You got to surmise.
I mean, a lot of people speculate it's Obama.
Right. That's what I've been hearing a lot.
You know?
Hearing that.
And I wish I knew. Maybe I don't wish I knew. I don't know. But, I mean, look, we can't actually think it's Joe Biden. We can't actually think it's Kamala Harris.
He has moments where he is still, like, you see old Biden.
Every now and again.
Yeah. Every now and again, he has these really sharp moments, actually.
Like the grandfather.
He's been a politician for so long. Some of it is just like...
It's ingrained in him. It's like muscle memory.
Can I just understand? Sorry to interrupt. Can I just understand one thing? Your father-in-law, before he went for politics, was the favorite guy, right?
Oh.
Everyone freaking loved him. He had a picture with every single famous... He did. He had with every single famous person. Top to bottom.
Comedy Central roast.
I was at that.
Were you at that roast?
Yeah, I was there.
And by the way, he took it well. Like, he could take the jokes.
Yeah.
And with Kimmel, and Kimmel messed up, he could take the jokes. So he, like, with all, like, his, like... So I'm just trying to understand one thing, right? What changes now that all of a sudden he goes for office and he gives his actual opinion that everyone loved this guy, and all of a sudden it's... What do they say? They say he showed his true colors? Like, how did people flip so quickly?
I mean, I think it was one of the first cases of trying to cancel someone that didn't really work out. Like, they thought, the media, I think, thought...
Didn't really work out. He became president.
Yeah, it didn't work out.
It didn't really work out.
They thought that if they pounced on him after that first announcement speech, and they said, this guy is a racist, this guy is a this and that and the other, then he'd be like, oh, forget it, I made a mistake here, guys, let me just pack it up. And he was like, no, like, he doubled down, he tripled down, and there were people who, ran for the hills. I mean, I think one of the first ones was Macy's. He had a line of ties at Macy's, and Macy's was like, we're canceling all the Trump ties. And he was like, take your ties and I'll show you what to do with them, basically. Didn't care, obviously. And then it was like one thing after another that kept falling. And he just stood up and he was like, no. And a lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people were like, no, we said you're done. You should sit down now. And he was like, I am not done. I will continue on this front. And he did.
The only thing that amazes me is that I don't believe for a second that all the people that he has pictures with, and let's be real, that he's writing checks to all this time, Hillary, I mean, let's not pretend for 1 second that he wasn't part of the New York elite. He was.
Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were at his wedding to Melania.
Right, so that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Let's not pretend it's a joke. So that's what I'm saying. Let's not pretend for 1 second that these people didn't know exactly who it was. I feel like at the moment that they felt it was not convenient for them to know who he was the moment that they decided that he's a bad guy or the media decided to portray him.
What's your take on it? Do you feel like your father-in-law was kind of always, way before his presidential experience, was he just always like out loud about his opinions, about his political opinions, about what he wants for the country? Was he that type of guy? Or
I mean, I think he was. I just think that people didn't put two and two together necessarily with him and his political leanings. He talked about things. I mean, if you go back to interviews he did in like 2012, 13, 14, before he announced he was running for president, he was talking about China. He was talking about us shipping all of our manufacturing overseas.
He was talking about Robert Pattinson. And
what do you mean?
He was also talking about that.
One of those random internet moments of all time.
He has a very, very famous interview with Oprah. Was
yes,
it no
from the 80s.
80s, yeah. And I think
She
it was
asked
84
him,
or
Saying the
something.
exact same
would you ever run
exactly.
for president? He said, only if things got so bad, I felt I had no other choice.
Yeah.
And I know he was getting so irritated by certain things that were happening in the country. And he would talk about it whenever, we would see him. He'd be really irritated. Do you remember the shrimp on the treadmill? Do you remember this? So God, I don't even remember how long ago this was. The government spent like some exorbitant amount of money. I couldn't even guesstimate it right now to get a shrimp to run on some mini treadmill underwater. And I don't know why or what the use of it was, but I remember him seeing that and he was like, this is insane. Like, this is where we're just like wasting our money. What are we doing? How stupid are we as a country? Those sort of things just started to build up in him. And he did voice his opinion, but I don't think anybody ever like knew he was going to come out of the gates hot and be like, I'm running as a Republican. And that's when everybody's like heads exploded.
I think it also shows you where the country was at in itself, that the idea of left and right politics deciding whether someone's a good or bad person all of a sudden is now just like, because I think going back to it, like your father-in-law didn't really call himself a Republican Democrat. And he really just called himself back. I think in 2000, he even was a Democrat.
Yeah.
In 2000,
no, he's always Democrat, but didn't he run for a second? Yeah, go on. Okay.
I think he was a Democrat in 2000. It wasn't a polarized thing where you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, and all of a sudden now you're a good or a bad person. And it was people are people, and you have your views, you have your politics, you have your things. Everyone can agree to disagree. We got to a point in the country right before your father-in-law became president where you can't agree to disagree. Yeah. You're either a bad person or a good person, depending on whether you're liberal or Republican. And I would go back to, regardless of whether your father-in-law showed his colors in the 90s or 80s with any of the friends, any of the pictures, it didn't really make a difference, because let's say he was saying the things he was saying then.
It wasn't a problem.
It wasn't a problem. It's now that he's saying the things that he's saying in 2014, 2015, 2016.
Context of the year.
It's just now a problem because Republican and Democrat is whether you're good or bad.
Right.
Which
can I expound on one other thing? That I believe this fully. Obama handed the presidency to your father-in-law. I believe that 100%. If your father-in-law would have ran, this is my personal opinion, in 2008, would not have won.
That's probably true.
Obama created, I will say this right here in my personal opinion, maybe his intentions were good, I'm not arguing, but he created a tremendous divide. I'm not here to say that, honestly, I'll spell this out, I'm not here to say that your father-in-law created tremendous unity in the country. It's not about that. I'm saying one very simple thing, and that is that Obama started not even a question focusing on all the problems in the country and the race issues and this and that. And I think
it's true. And honestly, it's so sad because there was such an opportunity to go the opposite way for Obama. And I didn't vote for him, but I remember watching him on stage with his family when he first got elected, and I thought, like, wow, this could be a very powerful move for America, and you could really have something great come out of this. And it unfortunately, like you're saying, it went the opposite way, and I think there was so much division that was created, and to the point you're making about it being a different time to be a Republican or a Democrat, I think that certainly played into it. But you also have to remember, you talk about Donald Trump back in the day calling himself a Democrat. Think about the Democrat Party is very different now.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are so many people who consider themselves to be Democrats in the 90s or early 2000s who today are like, I'm a Republican.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt, because the parties have really shifted around. It's been very interesting. And so I think you're right. I think that probably played into it.
And even in the politics game in 2008, as you were saying about Obama, no one knew what was coming, and on Label's thoughts as well. Even someone said to John McCain on his primary, on his presidential campaigning, I think there's a very famous video of a person at one of his rallies talking about how Obama's a bad person and Obama's this. How can we let him possibly get president? And John McCain stopped him. He said, stop, hold. He's not a bad person. I disagrees with my politics, disagrees with who I am right now in terms of how I feel the country should be run, but he's not a bad person. And the difference between that and the 2016 campaign, where it basically was, it's just you're a bad person, you're a good person, and it wasn't, by the way, only Democrat Republican. It was within own parties that people are like, if you view this certain way, you're a bad person. You view this a certain way, you're a good person. it's just wild the difference that took from 08 to 16, and you can tell that presidency, just to back your point, it was huge. You can just see it.
Just to expound also, I still remember we had an apartment together at this time, and I remember the whole Texas cop shooting thing when they were they killed 6 cops. And Obama got up on there. I still remember this clearly, and was saying, well, you have to understand. Well, no, there's no understanding. We're in America. You don't shoot police officers point blank. There's no in between on that. Whatever. At the end of the day, I think people, and I still think about this, with your father-in-law, I think people realize now, but I think they misunderstood the capabilities that he has. You may think
and the gravity of the situation.
But you may think he's a joke. The man is no joke. The man has the ability, purely, honestly, I think, to create a movement. He has that skill that no one else has. I mean, that's clear.
He did.
Yeah, he did.
He created a movement.
He has that ability. There's no way to get around that. And people always tell me, I don't like him. I said, well, I think you should pay attention to the fact that 70 million people voted for him and ask yourself, why? That's the question you have to have. Clearly, he's speaking to 70 million people, and they like him enough. So before you're so quick to quote-unquote shit on the guy, I mean, let's try to take and I would say that for any presidential candidate. Well, why is this side looking at this person, and why is that side looking at...
And a lot of it has to do with personality. A lot of it is that people have been told that his personality is the wrong personality to be president, and you can't. It's hard for people to argue with you over his policies and over the results that were produced for America while he was president. But it often comes down to people just disliking the way he delivers a message, the things he tweets.
Which there's basis for that.
No,
he's a flavor that's not going to be everyone's.
I understand that. I'm not arguing against it, but I think sometimes people are so. A lot of it, I think, has to do with the media. The media tells people, well, you should vote for the person who's a good person, who you believe is a good person. And Donald Trump's not a good person.
Right.
Because look at this tweet. Look at what he said. By the way, one of his best tweets were, not to get off subject, but you were talking about tweets. Robert Pattinson, one of his best tweets ever was, I've never seen a slim person drink a Diet Coke. By the way, he loves Diet Coke. That's his favorite
Diet Coke, and he loves
like,
ketchup on steak.
That's true.
Ketchup on steak. I'm a personal believer. How can you do that to a steak? Steak. The people are like, you have to have it rare.
I'll tell you the answer. It's called unlimited cash, and not caring if your steak doesn't taste so good.
Purists of the steak, and they see the ketchup with the steak, and like
some people probably didn't vote for him because he puts ketchup on his steak.
I'll be honest. I'm a medium rare. I'm a rare or medium rare guy when it comes to steaks. I'm against your father-in-law on this particular...
Oh, yeah, that's where we're going to... That's the line.
That's the line.
I understand. That's it. Got to draw a line somewhere.
I want to switch topics here a little bit, but I saw something that you said in an interview elsewhere. I thought it was really interesting, because you started this podcast, you were talking about how you had a pretty normal life. Like normal girl, small town?
Smallish town.
Yeah. You said that the campaign was the best thing that ever happened to you.
Is that what I said? Oh.
So how about this? Let's start with this. What were your thoughts? It sounds like you had a strong role to play in the campaign. Like you were involved.
Yeah. I had no intention initially of that happening, by the way.
What did you enjoy about it so much?
I think that what an experience. What a thing to experience. First of all, to be part of a presidential campaign is pretty freaking epic. Like, most people in their lives will never say they got to work on or volunteer for a presidential campaign. Just point blank, right? But then on top of that, to be part of the inner workings, to really see behind the scenes of something that is so fascinating, that really impacts our entire country, was very cool. But I think for me, the part that I enjoyed the most was going out and traveling this country and getting to see it in a way that I never had, because I was on a bus for most of the campaign.
That's what I was going to say. It's not. I've read David Foster Wallace is a very famous essay about being on McCain.
Yeah,
he was actually writing for Rolling Stone and following McCain around. It sounds terrible.
It's not glamorous. Don't get me wrong. This is not like a relaxed glamour type trip. I'm the type of person who I like to work. I like to, whatever it is I'm doing, when I focus on it, I want to go hard on it. And this was talk about going hard. It was just 3 months of total craziness, going to sleep in a different place every night, on a bus going and doing like multiple events a day. At the end of the day, you're exhausted, but that's how I like to be. That's how I operate, and I just like thrive in that sort of like environment. And for me, it was really incredible to see the response to my father-in-law all across this country, to go basically coast to coast and end to end of America and meet with people from all different walks of life, hear their stories, hear why they were so into my father-in-law, why they wanted to vote for him the first time around, how he impacted their lives the second time around. And I mean, most people never get to experience something like that. So it was really incredible.
Did you hear things from regular Americans? Like you said, you probably got to meet so many different types of Americans. And like, I mean, I guess I'm a coastal elite. Like, I don't know that many types of Americans. I live in New York. I mean, it's very multicultural, but you've just seen more of the country than most people have. And you've heard, you know. Did you hear things that surprised you? Were there things about what people want or what was hurting them or, you know, their hopes, dreams, worries that surprised you?
Well, I mean, I'll never forget this one woman in Iowa who, we went for the Iowa caucuses in 2016. And P.S., none of us knew what a caucus was when we got there. Learned very quickly about that.
Sure.
But then we traveled around the state, and I remember this one woman who was saying that if it weren't for her son living with her, she wouldn't be able to afford to pay for her diabetes drugs. She literally was living like off of Social Security and couldn't wait. Like the money that she had wasn't getting her what she needed. And this woman literally is like in tears talking to me at some like kind of truck stop type place that we stopped in Iowa, and she was basically telling me, we need change. Something has to change for people, because if it doesn't, I can't afford to live this way. If my son ever moves out, I can't afford my medication. Most people don't realize that exists in this country. I mean, God, we are so lucky.
There's some crazy number of people in America live paycheck to paycheck and have no savings.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But to your point, for a lot of us, like I lived in New York for 15 years. Like I was talking about my upbringing, I was very fortunate in that we never had to worry about, you know, I was going to get medication if I needed it. And obviously I'm living in a beautiful state now and my life is great, but there are so many people out there that are hurting, that really don't know how they're going to get by. And until you see them and you look in their eyes and they're literally crying in front of you, it really, it impresses you in such a way that you never forget that.
It's true. I just want to expand on this. It's so true. First of all, we're coming from, obviously, the Jewish community. Thank God. The Orthodox community, we have a very strong community. Everyone takes care of each other. We have a very strong sense of community. We're in New York. Not everyone has that.
No.
Really. Most people, not everyone.
Not at all.
Most people do not have that.
For sure, the sense of community, for sure not.
They're alone. Yeah. They have to figure out how they're going to, afford their own health care, how they're going to keep up their kids through school. I mean, these are things that we totally take for granted. I for sure do. I can't talk about everyone else sitting here. Yeah. I for sure take it for granted. And yeah, I could imagine when you're talking to people throughout the country about this, it all of a sudden hits you like, this is what the actual American really keeps them up at night for a minute. This is what keeps them up.
Some people just really don't know how they're going to make ends meet, how they're going to make it. And it's more people than I think a lot of us appreciate. And then to know that you might be able to help them in some way, that, if we change whatever it is, if we changed Obamacare, if we lowered taxes, if whatever it is that they were hoping my father-in-law was going to be able to do for them happened, it really could impact their lives in such a positive way. That's incredible. That's something that, who would ever think that you could be a part of something like that?
Can I ask you one question? So 2016 election night comes. Person to person here. You guys are down double digits, I think, going into that night, right? As far as all the exit polls.
Oh, yeah.
Did you think your father-in-law had a chance of winning this? Or you guys, at this point, have a chance of winning this?
I think I was very cautiously optimistic. I think we had all told ourselves, probably not. But, let's see what happens. There's always a nice underdog story that we love here in America. And it's funny, though, because I was telling you guys about, how Eric and I would call each other at the end of a day. And we would constantly say, there's something that people are missing.
Yes.
How is it possible that we are going around the country and we are not the candidate? I'm not even blood related to the candidate. And I'm having people come out in the way I am, and the enthusiasm that was out there and the incredible way that just all of it was playing out. We were there's something that the media is missing. There's something the polling is missing. And I knew the exit polls would be wrong because the number of people who would come up to me on an airplane, in a restaurant, wherever I was, and whisper to me, like, we're voting for Donald Trump. And I was like, oh, I see what's happening here. Y'all aren't going to tell anybody. You're going to go in that voting booth. You're going to come out and you're going to lie to the exit pollster and say, oh, yeah, I voted for Hillary. And you're actually going to vote for Donald Trump because people were so afraid to say that they were voting for Donald Trump because there was all of this, negativity around
the
him.
Naivety, at least for me, like, again, I know what exit polls are, but at the end of the day, like, people are looking at exit polls on, like, the media is controlling that narrative at the end of the day.
Totally.
Like, how many people are going into that exit poll? When are they, what counties are the exit polls coming from? Like, you have no clue any of these things. All you see is exit poll in Iowa says 51%, 44%, 7%, and whatever, 4% interested, 5%.
Funny, I'll tell you,
and it's like,
I'll tell you,
where is this coming from? What is this? What's happening? And it's like,
it's funny.
You have to go back and be like, understand the media is the one that's.
First of all, credit to your father-in-law. I did not know the first thing about politics in 2015. When he started running,
facts.
Like so many people.
I knew nothing.
Like so many
I knew nothing, but he got us involved so quickly.
I signed up for Netflix immediately. I was like, here's my money. Let me watch this TV show for the next 4 years. That was like I was in. But I still remember I bet someone straight up before the election, $5K, that Donald Trump was going to win the presidency. And the president's like, oh, you're crazy, you're crazy. I said, you don't understand something. I'm on social media. Every single story that comes out on Facebook, I go to the comment section. The top comment is the most honest poll that exists in the world.
I do that with stories on the Daily Mail. Yeah. I'm telling you, I tell Eric all the time, whatever, it could be about anything in the world. Go to best comments, the one that's got the most likes. I'm like, that's what people really think about this.
That's what it tells you.
For sure.
It's true.
That's it.
It's my unofficial barometer.
By the way, it was your father-in-law. Basically, it was Hillary on some, but a lot of them your father-in-law. I'm like, this is way closer.
We looked at each other like it was probably.
Closer.
I remember we looked at each other a couple months ago and we were like, do we think? And I'm like, Label. I'm telling you, he's going to win. There's no chance anyone can see, like, especially with all the with Hillary was like the 33,000 emails and all this stuff. And like we were watching. Also, we were watching the debates. By the way,
sorry for interrupting you.
We were watching the debates. And like,
don't even get me started.
Oh, the debates.
We were watching the debates. First of all, I just want to say straight up, we had debate parties.
Of course,
we had debate parties. I think that's the first time ever in the course of like politics. So people had debate parties.
Yeah.
We were 22 at the time. I think 22. Yeah. We had our own apartment. We had 16 people over barbecuing, watching a debate.
Like, when are people having debate parties?
Like, when are people having debate parties? Like, getting into it.
That's how. Exactly.
It was like
exactly.
He tapped into, first of all, at least a 22-year-old Sam Warren morning. He tapped into me. He's just like I love entertainment, and it would beyond entertaining. It was just like, you saw a person that like it was an unfiltered version of like every American of themselves, like just in their home. Like, just out on TV, and like no other people just don't have I think there's a lot of people just don't have the courage for that.
Of course, in the first debate, I'll never forget us all sitting in the audience, like getting ready. And then Megyn Kelly comes out with that first question, and we were all like, oh my God, like, what's about to happen here? And then he does the only Rosie O'Donnell. And we were like, what's about to happen? Then the place went like bananas. And I was like, this is crazy. Yeah. But yes, people were having debate parties because when were debates ever fun to watch? With Donald Trump in them, they certainly are.
It was unbelievable.
It was
Look,
unbelievable.
the man, say what you want about him, and there's things I don't like, but he knows what entertainment is.
Oh,
he's an entertainment person.
That's his whole life.
Captivated an audience. I mean, it was, and I'm telling you, I think we watched the first debate, and I looked Label, and I was like, the guy's not losing. Dudes, like when you see, like, people are like, like LeBron, Michael Jordan, everyone has their debates. It's like, everyone knows, like, I don't know how much you know of sports, but like Michael Jordan, like, with the ball in his hands, like, dude's not losing. Like,
Michael Jordan went to my high school, P.S.
Wilmington, I was going to ask you, North Carolina. Mm-hmm. They just put out this movie, Ear, about getting the contract with Nike, whatever, that's all a separate thing.
I'm a big sports person, by the way.
You are.
You are a big sports person.
Yeah. They're going to put, I'm sure, on the Michael.
But you're not.
No. He graduated well before I did. Thank you for considering me. But it says the Michael J. Jordan Gymnasium at Laney High School, where I went. And Fred Lynch, who was the athletics director, and the guy who cut him from the basketball team when he first got cut, was still the athletics director when I was there, and I played sports under him. Great guy.
That guy didn't commit suicide?
No, he's the greatest. Oh, Coach Lynch was the best.
I love Coach Lynch.
He didn't have the greatest eye for talent at the time.
It turned out okay. But I'm sure they're waiting for the day they can put the Lara Trump gymnasium right beside Michael Jordan. I'm just going to hold my breath.
Hoop in high school?
Do what?
Did you hoop in high school?
Not in high school, but I played like in middle school. I've played like every sport though. I played volleyball, soccer, basketball. I was cheerleader, track, cross country.
To being tall.
Some positives to being tall. Beach volleyball. Don't even get me on a beach volleyball court because I'll go crazy out there. I love it. Yeah.
Amazing.
That's awesome. So,
yep.
Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Well, speaking about media before, do you miss working for Fox? Do you miss that?
I do. Honestly, I had a great experience working for Fox. It was, everybody from behind the scenes to in front of the camera was really wonderful, and I enjoyed it. You asked me, was I ever trained formally for any of this? I was not, which is why it was all the more like shocking and fun and all of it. But I look oftentimes at some of the shows that I used to do, and I'm like, that'd probably be kind of hard to officially do right now when my father-in-law is campaigning, and there's a lot of balls in the air. But
so it sounds like it was decently amicable. Because the internet is a buzz that it was perhaps not fully amicable. I mean, what's his face? The guy I'm forgetting.
Tucker.
No, not Tucker. I'm talking about the guy who owns Fox.
Oh, Rupert Murdoch.
Yeah, he's come out like he's not backing your father-in-law.
Well, but he didn't really, I don't think, want to back him in 2015.
Oh, really?
Right? I think Fox was, if you go back and look at the old Fox footage before they kind of got on the Trump train.
They had to get on it.
Yeah, they were on the Jeb Bush train.
That is true, actually.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
until he was getting 3% of the vote.
Yeah. Jeb, exclamation
Low
point.
energy Jeb.
Please clap. It didn't work out for Jeb. Bless his heart.
Do you think media is... Okay, so, my favorite show right now is Succession. I don't know if you watch it.
It's a good one.
Yeah, you caught up?
I'm not caught up, so don't spoil anything.
No spoilers, but that is basically about a media. It's literally based on the Murdochs, but it's it's about how in America, presidencies and politics is in bed with media and vice versa. Do we think that media is the kingmaker here? Do we think that media...
Well, I think what's interesting is that it is very influential. There's no doubt it's influential in the way people view things. And I think that perhaps until Donald Trump came around, maybe that was the case. Maybe they had a lot more sway with people. And Donald Trump kind of peeled the onion back for a lot of people. And a lot of people, I don't think, realized how powerful the media companies were in manipulating the way we view things. He certainly exposed them. He likes to say the fake news and all that. But it's really true in some respects what he talked about and the way he exposed a lot of them. And I certainly think that there are people who are always trying to sway opinion. And, you have to look at these powerful entities. They reach millions of people. Yep. Some people, take them to heart, everything they say. Some people are kind of smart enough now to do their own research as well. But I certainly think there's a lot to that, and they have a lot of power, no doubt.
Did you feel pressure while you were there?
Did I what?
Did you feel pressure while you were there?
No.
Have certain narratives?
No. Oh, no. Never once did anyone ever tell me anything to say. I think they kind of knew where I stood on most of my things anyway. So no, I never did. Personally.
Because to be clear, that fake news that Donald rails against, that's coming from right and left.
No,
media's job is to produce clicks.
And it's so sad. It is. And it's so sad these days because we used to live in a country where journalists were actually journalists, where they would actually just report the information and let us as people decide. Because
I wasn't alive during then. Everyone keeps saying this. Is that actually true?
Well, I think it's true to an extent. I think there were some honest journalists. There were people who really did want to just disseminate information and let us draw our own conclusions. And now, whatever you read or whatever you hear, it's also so obvious.
Every media, and CNN, Fox, 90% of their day is roundtable discussions of what's going on. It's opinions. It's not necessarily just facts getting thrown out at you. Even if you watch ABC and NBC, David Muir or you had I forgot his name on NBC. Holt, what was his name?
Lester Holt.
Lester Holt. even them, if you watch them back in the day, it was more just reporting facts. Now this is going on here, and then they add in their little opinions afterwards, and that's not news. News is I'm giving you news. Like if you think of just the word news, I'm giving you news. Here's what's going on with grandma in the nursing home.
Like Walter Cronkite era.
Here's what's
like I actually believe if you went through an entire like newsreel of like Walter Cronkite clips and did an entire like 30 minutes of like you're saying the 6 o'clock evening news,
right,
which the majority of Americans have, most people don't have cable in this country, right? So a lot of people are getting their information that way. I think it probably is very different. The way there's opinion put into things, just little slants and little sleight of hand that maybe you might not think of unless you've seen the other side of the coin and realize that happens. It's just very interesting, like all of it. I do think there was a time where it was a lot more honest. I think there will always be people, and there always have been people who've tried to influence the way people think, certainly. But I think today it's so blatant and so,
yeah, it is. One question, not to belabor this point too much. So, 2024, here we come.
Here we come.
Will there be any policy changes in the Trump administration going forward as opposed to what there was in 2016? Anything clear that's supposed to be changed? Or it's going to be basically a rerun? And by the way, just to be clear, just to preface very quickly, I want to hear obviously your take, but I was a huge fan of your father-in-law's policies in 2016. I thought he nailed every single one of them directly on that. Yeah, there's nothing I can really think of. Is that going to be the same in 2024 or some differences?
I think a lot of it will be the same. I think there's a lot of cleanup to do. I think there's a lot that we need to get a handle on. I mean, we need our energy independence back, first and foremost. I think that was that was the first thing that Biden did when he came into office, and it was so detrimental to this country. But I do think times have changed, and there are things that he's probably added into what he wants to focus on, like parental rights. Like making sure that we get a handle on our education. Honestly, like you look around the world, look at where China is and the way they're educating their kids and compare it to us here in America. Things are so far behind for our kids. We are lowering standards across the board. We are letting, these teachers' unions just completely control how our kids are learning. And a lot of parents, I think, are very frustrated. That wasn't so much an issue during his first term in office. I do think he'll focus a lot more on things like that. But we got to turn things back around. We got to get our military ready to fight and peace through strength. That was his big thing.
So we have to fight Afghanistan now.
I mean,
they have everything.
They have everything.
We have to get it all back.
$84 billion worth of it, actually.
Literally have to get it all back.
But, we have to reestablish ourselves on the world stage because we're at a very weakened position, I think, right now. So I think there's going to be a lot of cleanup to do. I think there's a lot that people would see similar to his first term in office. But then I think there will be a lot that has transpired between Joe Biden taking office and God willing, whenever my father-in-law would take back over, that who would have ever thought we would need to talk about these sorts of crazy things?
Sure. And also the 2024 campaign coming up. I don't know if you saw, but Desantis officially announced is going to announce tomorrow night on Twitter.
Says.
So he says.
I was going to say.
So he says.
I feel like you got a phone call about this a few days ago already.
So he says on with Elon Musk on Twitter tomorrow night. That's like that. Literally
one of the Twitter space things, right?
Yeah, like literally a half an hour before we got together over here. I just saw it. So I want to get your thoughts on that. I know that you are definitely opinionated on the matter.
Well, look, I live in Florida. I think Ron DeSantis has done a great job as governor. We reelected him for a second term as our governor. I think a lot of people, if you talk to them in the state of Florida, would like to see that play out. Look, whoever it might be on the Republican side of the ticket is running on the Trump platform. Like it is all, Donald Trump is the head of the Republican Party. He started this movement. It really has changed our party in so many ways. And I think what I look at is people, whoever it is, DeSantis, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, they're running on the Trump policies. Well, why would anyone want a replica of the real thing? You have the real thing. It's Donald Trump who's running. And you look at him within the party and the percentage of the vote he's getting from the GOP, it's well over 50%, no matter who is in there. put DeSantis in, put the whole slot of them in. And actually, for Donald Trump, the more people who get into this race, the better it ultimately is for him, because they're going to split the rest of the vote so many different ways. And he's still going to maintain, I think, that 50% plus vote. So
yeah, he's going to, I mean,
the more the merrier. I mean, it's fine.
Do you think, if possible, if DeSantis were to get the nomination, that your father-in-law would back him?
I think he wants to back somebody who's going to do the right thing for this country. Look, he backed him for governor.
Right.
You know, and he, honestly, my father-in-law is the reason that Ron DeSantis won. That was a tough race.
Yeah.
Andrew Gillum was almost the governor of Florida. I'll tell you, this state would look very different. I certainly wouldn't be living in this state. You wouldn't see the prosperity here if we had a governor like that. So, look, he wants this country to flourish and prosper and to see the right things happen. So I think he would support anyone who thought could
this
do
may
that.
be a question out of total naiveness and lack of knowledge, but why don't they just team up? What? So what?
Naivety.
I can't help it.
So I know that's okay.
Are you a grammar freak? Because I
Not
am.
even. It just. I don't know.
No, that's fine. I can take that. No problem.
Naiveness. That is,
Naivety,
look.
It's okay.
It's okay. Don't worry
Maybe
about
a
it.
little naive on your part, but go ahead. Finish your
Exactly.
thought.
Why can't they just do this together? Like, make this happen. Like, you either want Trump or you want DeSantis. Why not? Don't they just VP? Like, just make it clear.
Well,
like, we're going to make.
Nobody wants to
be.
run for vice president.
Right.
If we're being really honest, and truly, the thing people have to remember about Donald Trump too is the establishment hates Donald Trump. And I mean that in the Republican Party. Both, obviously, we know the left hates Donald Trump, but the establishment in the Republican Party does not like Donald Trump because they cannot control him. He never needed them. He told them in 2016, I'm not even going to take any donor money until I become the Republican nominee. I will fund my entire campaign, which is what he did.
Right, 100 million.
Ron DeSantis cannot do that. He has to have the backing of the establishment. He has to have the backing of mega donors. And people, if you take a step back and look at what that ultimately means, it means that he is in some ways indebted to these people and slightly, but it's how politics works, right? That's how it all works. It changed with Donald Trump. And to a lot of people, they see Donald Trump and they say, this is the only guy who could really go in there and do the right thing because he is beholden to no one. Yeah. He doesn't need any of them. And so I think, look, if you probably got Ron DeSantis one-on-one and you knew nobody would find out, he would probably say, I would rather wait until 2028 when the wind was behind my sails with the whole MAGA movement. I had all of this behind me. But I think there are a lot of people who are telling him, now's the time. You got to go now or we're not going to back you.
Going into just a little bit of a lighter mood for a second. Well, obviously, your father-in-law shoots from the hip instinctually. Inside, just taking away from politics, do you ever look, and you were saying like one of the funniest tweets that he's ever tweeted,
yeah.
You know, like you're his daughter-in-law at the end of the day, right? So like, do you ever just look at your father-in-law sometimes in some tweets, some things, you're just like, Pops, why? Like what's going on here, man?
Obviously.
Like
I'm a human being at
like,
the end
do you
of
ever
the
like
day.
just walk into dinner and just like, just put your foot there and you're like,
What the
Pops,
fuck?
what the fuck, man?
Yeah, no, I'm very honest with him. If he asks me what I think of things, I'll tell him the truth. Yeah, there've been a couple of them that I'm like, probably wasn't a good one. Probably wouldn't have done that. But you know,
Have you ever strongly disagree with like the way he handled something?
Not the way he handled it. There have been times where, looking back, I was like, why is he doing this? You know, asking my husband, like, what's the plan here? What's the strategy here? And it's so crazy because like a year later, 6 months later, I'd be like, oh,
It works out.
I got it.
Right.
And had he done things the way that I was thinking he should do them, that wouldn't have played out that way. It's kind of amazing because there's so many people love to like, you know, jump on Donald Trump, criticize him as soon as they can. But oftentimes there's a reason he does things. I mean, look, you got to remember this was a businessman his whole life. This guy's got a strategy. He's got a plan. He's a negotiator. He's an operator. There's no doubt. And so, yeah, there have been things that I'm like, I wonder why we went about it that way. But
Can I just say something here? The more we sit down with bigger people, and we keep on doing it, so like we've had some big people, and the more I keep speaking to more influential people, the more I understand that us as citizens, we don't know our head from our ass, and our knowledge and ability to understand what is actually happening is extremely limited. If you think for a second, and I ask people all the time, as people have an opinion on, let's just say Donald Trump, he's not a smart guy. So look at that building. Go to Fifth Avenue, look at the building. It stands 80 stories high. I want you to tell me how long it would take you to build that building right there. If you have any concept of what it even took for 1 second to build a building on Fifth Avenue and 57th that goes 80 stories high and hire Roy Cohn to get the tax abatement from the city and win the... If you start paying attention for 1 second, I was walking in here with Shmuley and I said to him, Shmuley, do you ever think for a second, this is a random Trump golf course. You ever think about how many of these are in the world and what an operation
he's like, I don't understand how it operates. And he's a businessman.
Well,
Like,
I'll get my husband over here because he's in charge of all of that.
Right.
Please.
So that's
Yeah.
also
No, but I'm just saying that just
it.
the org chart of
Yeah.
what you need going on is,
Yeah.
again, your father-in-law at the end of the day is the quote-unquote patriarchy of that org chart. Just to have an operation like this, like the more you sit down with people that, like you said, are like you're explaining to me the Ron DeSantis situation. And I'm hearing this, and I'm like, you're right. He's taking money from big donors.
He has to.
And he does.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that makes him susceptible and indebted to them. At the end of the day, they are pulling the strings, and he is more of a puppet at the end of the day than someone like your father-in-law, who, yes, when he ran his campaign, it was a known thing. It cost him $120 million to run his campaign without taking any money until he became the Republican nominee. And that says a lot, because that means at least even if you don't like the guy, he's running the campaign purely from what he believes is an honest perspective in his mind. You may not like him, but if you go to look at Hillary or anyone else, they're being told what to do by the person giving them money, because if they don't, sayonara, have a good day. So that is worth, I have to agree, that's worth something.
Oh, and just going a little bit towards your husband now running the Trump organization, really, and all the stuff around it. That's a big thing. Like from your father-in-law running for president, now your husband is running the Trump organization, one of the biggest organizations, right, in America right now. What's that like, being like a wife to that, being like in the household? That's a big change. Like obviously Eric was huge inside the organization and one of the right-hand man. But now he's the runner. Now he's the main guy. Like, what's that like? How has it changed your life a little bit? And
hold on, I got to take Don's side over here. Where's Don in this?
Well,
where's Ivanka? Where's Ivanka in this?
Well, Ivanka's no longer part of the business.
Everyone knows Eric is the head of the snake right now.
Yeah, and Eric's in charge of the company.
Eric's head of the snake.
Yeah, we wouldn't call him Don. He'll tell you the same thing. That's okay. It's a lot. And you know what? My father-in-law would not have run when he did if he didn't fully feel like he could step out of the company and things would run smoothly. And honestly, I think my husband had pretty much everything to do with that. But it's a lot. There's a lot that people will never know. There are so many battles on a daily basis that are total nonsense. I mean, the amount of money paid to lawyers is just astronomical, and it's all garbage. It's all politically motivated. It's all just based on disgusting people who have just, again, their motivations are horrific. But it's been interesting. It's been interesting living in Florida and having a company that is based in New York with all the things going on in New York. But you know what? He does such an incredible job. He loves to tell his dad how much better things are when he's running it.
Sounds like a Trump.
Yeah, right? Cut from the same cloth. But yeah, I mean, and he loves it. I mean, that's the one thing I'll say about my husband is he was truly born to do this job. He loves it. He does a great job. And, I mean, the company's honestly never looked better. Something else he likes to tell his dad about all the time.
Where does he live? He's running from here?
Eric? We live here in Florida.
But he's running... I mean,
he goes back and forth.
He does go back and forth.
He has an office here.
He can afford the flight. So everything's okay.
Oh, he flies JetBlue. Don't worry about that. Yes.
You should know something, by the way.
Didn't you meet
2 years ago?
Didn't you meet him?
3 years ago, mid-COVID, I roll out of a plane. I think it was an MIA, right? Not Fort Lauderdale, MIA, and I was with him. And not only was I with him, I walked over to him.
With Eric?
Eric was... I walked off the plane. He's standing right there with Secret Service. This is when your father-in-law's still president, I think, at the time.
Well, we had Secret Service for 6 months after.
Yeah. So I walk over, and I see it's him, and I went over to him. I said, Eric, can we get a picture? And by the way, he was so nice. I have the picture.
Well, good.
I'll put it up here on the screen.
Generally a pretty nice guy.
He's like, absolutely. And he wasn't like pushy or rushy. Like, we took the picture, and then I just thanked him. I just said, I want to thank you for everything you're doing. I know, it's difficult, whatever. Yeah, but we had a very nice, it wasn't a very long exchange, but we had a nice exchange.
Oh, good.
I'll post a picture somewhere.
Oh, I love it.
Over here.
Yeah.
I'll show it to you afterwards. Yeah. It was really nice.
What's it like, with the politics? Obviously, politics it's a dirty game. There's vitriol. There's vitriol.
It's terrible.
Now you have a husband who's running a huge organization, and obviously you have aspirations. How do you balance motherhood and, keeping your kids safe in terms of what they hear and what they see, while also, trying to be authentic to yourself and like to what your, yourself and your family and other, the things that you want to accomplish. How do you balance all of that?
I don't know if I do a great job of it sometimes. It's hard. I mean, I think there's like real mom guilt. I think a lot of, it doesn't matter who you are, what your last name is. Right. You feel like you never have enough time in the day. I mean, I don't sleep probably as much as I should. I read some study, by the way, that says like if you want to like do some anti-aging sleeping, you need to be sleeping like 10 or 11 hours a night. Insane. Great. I'm literally on like a 5-hour a night sleep schedule, and that seems to work for me. But you know what? I find time to incorporate my kids in things that I'm doing that I need to do, and bring them with me whenever I can. And it's important for me to drop my kids off at school in the morning, pick them up from school, to be there when they wake up, to put them in bed every night, to do our prayers with them. You have to make time for the things that are really important and I think impactful to them. And I try to keep those kids busy. Let me tell you, I was telling you guys when I walked in here, my kids do not have a second of downtime. And that's how I was raised, and that's how I want it, because, I want them in every sport and every hobby. I want them doing things because, idle hands are the devil's playground, as they say. So whenever they get older, I want them involved in stuff so that they're not getting in trouble.
And what about social media is probably a big thing also.
Oh, my gosh.
And especially, again,
they're young still. But
they're young, but 3 and 5-year-old, like, it's
4 years.
My 5-year-old is finally starting to kind of appreciate who Grandpa is. Kind of. And it's very interesting. If this all plays out, this election cycle, and my father-in-law becomes president again, my kids will fully understand what that means and who he is. And in the first round, I had both my kids while my father-in-law was president.
Right.
And so they didn't know anything. We were just, it's Grandpa and whatever, and my daughter was a baby. And it'll be very interesting to see how that all ends up for them, but also how people relate to them. It's nice. I was going to say,
like, they're still, like, at school, they're going to have the Trump last name.
How does that work? I'm very curious about that.
They're just in school, and I'm just, I don't tell them anything different. They're just another kid at school.
Right.
And until I need to talk to them about it, I'm just going to let them be kids and be innocent and
That's
have
awesome.
all of that, and, have their friends and do play dates and everything. And we just try to keep it normal.
Okay, I want to bring up one thing that I think is very important, because I want to give you the floor, because I think it's super important, actually. There are people that throughout the years, which to me is the craziest thing, specifically when your father-in-law started running for president, there was like, before I think he was even elected, there was like a star that went up, and people were like saying that it looks like swastika, some crazy stuff.
Gosh.
And I'm hearing I hear people were like accusing him of anti-Semitism then, and then I've been hearing throughout the years, and I'm still hearing it now. I just want to clarify, first of all, I think all these things straight up, the most outrageous, the most stupid.
Total garbage, yes.
Total garbage. There's honestly, I have no more to say. It's clear, obviously, Ivanka is an Orthodox Jew, married to Jared.
Yeah.
Kushner's.
Jared married us. Jared conducted the ceremony for our wedding, my wedding to Eric. Yes. Actually, whenever we were thinking
Didn't know that.
Yeah, of who we'd want to marry us. The Kushner family, by the way, is among the most generous, kindest people I have ever met. I tell Jared's parents, Cyril and Charlie, all the time, I'm like, if anything ever happens to my parents, I just want you guys to adopt me. I want you to know that straight up. I'm letting you know ahead of time. So nice, so kind. And when we're thinking of who, means something to us, who we love and trust, but also has just sort of this, ability to do something like conduct a wedding ceremony, we both came up with Jared. So we went and we're like, would you marry us? I know he was kind of like
Orthodox Jews are great at throwing a wedding and a party.
He was amazing. It was a beautiful wedding ceremony.
It's funny. I just read his book, actually. I forgot what it's called, but I know it's him walking. I read the book, Creating History. Whatever. I read it. It was
something
awesome.
History. You're right.
Breaking history.
Breaking history.
You should know this.
I really should.
No, I read the book. I read the book. I read the book over Shabbat. I can't watch or do anything. So I did read it. It was great. And by the way, Ivanka and Jared easily one of the biggest heroes in the Orthodox Jewish community, I think, hands down.
Oh, that's nice.
No, they really are. I don't think no one can get a hold of them or touch them or get near them. We know that. They're too elusive. But at the Shabbat tables, everyone's like, Jared and Ivanka, the coolest people. But and by the way, please tell them to get back involved in the campaign. I don't know. It seems like they went, I don't know where they are. But
they had, I mean, listen, they went through a lot in D.C. There's so much people will never know about what they endured. Don't forget, they never got paid for anything they did in the White House. People are like, they're working in the White House. They did it for free. They really did it to make a difference. When you look at the things they did, look at the peace deals signed in the Middle East. I mean, that was Jared all the way. All of the things.
Should we give Berkowitz a shout out, or does he get any piece of this?
Oh, well, whatever. Sure.
Avi, I don't know who you are, but I don't know where you are, I should say. But, bravo.
We give credit where credit is due. But truly, they went through hell. They went through so much. It was so tough on them as a couple. It was tough on their kids. And I don't think people ever really appreciate what they had to endure. And so I think for them, you know, they're like, we just need to live our lives for right now. Boundaries. And then you'll see what happens, you know, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
It's overwhelming, I'm sure. It's like,
I remember when your father-in-law was running, I think in 2020, it's a family affair at the end of the day. Everything, like all the not even town halls, but they had like little town halls outside and like the streets and stuff, and you would just have Don, Ivanka, you know, Eric, and your father-in-law. And like that's a lot to be traveling the country all the time.
Yeah.
I honestly, to me, it's incredible in a tremendously positive way that they're just like boundaries. Family first. Sorry, we love you all, but our kids are in that stage. We've done this for 6 years. This cannot ruin our entire lives.
And everybody has to do what's best for them and their families. I don't know if
sure. So I not to get away too much from the question, that I, aside from the fact that I obviously think the anti-Semitic allegations are crazy, so there was just something recently that happened with the Re-America Foundation again, and when Eric found out about it, he right away got on the phone, obviously, and told him to go jump in the lake. Whoever the hell you think you're having is not coming. So yeah, just give me your feedback on what you respond to all these allegations, which hold no weight, but I do want to hear a little bit what your personal thoughts are to people that have this accusation.
I mean, it's terrible. There's obviously nothing to it. And it is so sad that we live in a time where you can just blatantly accuse people of things that are just totally false, and any media outlet can then pick it up and run with it. It's clickbait. They want to post it on Twitter. They want to post it. Like, they really don't care at the end of the day how it harms you, how it defames you, because that's really what it is. It's defamation of someone's character to accuse them of something like this at the end of the day. And whether you're talking about, you know, me, Eric, obviously, look, we go speak at events across the country all the time. Sometimes we don't know who's at every event we're speaking at. You take pictures with people. Like you said, you come up to Eric off a plane. People ask us to take pictures with them all the time, and then they have the picture like, there's the photo evidence, they're X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. But no, I mean, any allegation is obviously total garbage and totally bogus. And, you know, all you have to do is look at our family. Like you said, Jared, Ivanka, and their kids, who we all care deeply about and have the utmost respect for. And then you look at the things that my father-in-law actually did when he was in office. Look at what he did for Israel. Look at the fact that he was the only president, although so many before him had promised, to move the American embassy to Jerusalem in Israel. He got it done. Recognizing the Golan Heights, he got it done. And there's so many ways that he showed his support for Israel. In fact, I think he was the Grand Marshal in 2004 of some Israeli parade in New York City.
It's famous. That's actually famous.
And so, like, it's far predates any political aspiration. His
son-in-law is an Orthodox Jew.
It's insane and it's garbage. It's and anyone who wants to believe that is just grasping at straws and looking for some other way to hate him.
Yeah, I mean, let's just be real. He's done business in New York the whole time. New York is full of first of all, he
works in real estate in New York. End of discussion.
Real estate in New York is like 80%.
The top 7 of his 8 executives at the Trump organization are Jewish. It's all so stupid. It's crazy.
Sorry to interrupt you. I've always said something. People come out with all these things. Just say this straight. They come out with all these things about your father-in-law, this, that, misogynist. I've always said your father-in-law strikes me as the type of guy that just wants a result. If you could pull off that result, you are hired, right?
The only color Donald Trump has ever cared about is green.
Right, exactly right.
Period.
That's what I'm saying. Like, the person who built Trump Tower was a woman. Like, all these different things. You just look at the facts. These are long before. So, and by the way, all really successful people, for the most part, just care about the result. The result is get me what I have my mind put forth to. That is what I want. If you can do that, I don't care what the hell you are.
Give me the best person for this job.
Exactly.
That's who I want for it.
So I do want to respond because you said some of the things that Eric recently responded with, which honestly, I was reading this and I was like, there's really no way you could go around that. I wrote it down here. He wrote, at Matt, I was walking a fine line, fine. He writes, we are the most pro-Israel family in American political history, from the Abraham Accords, moving the embassy to Jerusalem, recognizing Israel's sovereignty over the Golan Heights, to sanctioning Iran. No one has done more for Israel than our family. Never mind that my sister, brother-in-law, and niece and nephews happens to be proud Jews. Honestly, I don't really think there's much you can fight with on that.
It's very difficult to fight the idea of anti-Semitism within the family when the family is married to an
it's just
very difficult to fight that accusation.
But that's the sad thing is, people will just haphazardly write or say something about any of us. And then once it's out there and one person thinks like, I'm going to just pounce on this and blow this up, then it's literally like on your Wikipedia page. Wikipedia is terrible, by the way.
Why? Share on that.
Wikipedia is run by nothing but liberals.
Also, Wikipedia, anyone can write on it.
Anyone can go on there and change it and try to get anything that is false or negative about you. And by the way, it's so biased. You look up anyone who is a liberal and it's like a glowing review of them. You look up anyone who's a conservative and it's just like a hatchet job to their whole persona.
I want to ask you this. I've long wondered this. All the big media outlets, barring basically Fox, are big liberal media outlets. Why? Like, they're left. They're not like middle. They're left. Why?
I wish I had an answer to that question. I mean, I think that, you have to kind of follow the money at the end of the day, I guess, and see who's supporting all of them and who's, backing all of them. And that's where they're getting their marching orders ultimately. And I mean, it's terrible, but it's true. And I don't have a full answer. I wish there was more.
I think I can give a small answer. Maybe. And that you alluded to it earlier, is that on the left side, you're pandering towards emotion. It's very, very easy to use propaganda and to convince people with emotion over logic. Because if you're convincing people with logic, then the base, let's say,
I'm just saying,
one second. The base that if you're fighting with logic and the other person's fighting with logic, you're now fighting with, you're kind of like, okay, which one of us is right here? Whereas on the left side of the media, they're not fighting with logic, they're fighting with emotion. So once you tap into that, the logic doesn't make a difference.
Never once used emotion, by the way.
They both sides use emotion. Both all media uses emotion. He's saying all media uses emotion. But at the end of the day, on the left side, why is there only one Fox and there's 7 CNNs?
Right. That's my primary question.
Right.
Why are there so many?
Why are there so many?
One, because that's the only thing that seems right. I don't know. That was always just a long-standing question I always just had. And
I don't think that they all started out like that. Like, I remember in college, I would watch CNN to actually find out what was going on, find out what was happening in the world, and find out I'm just going to get some news. It really wasn't until my father-in-law started running for president that I was like, oh my God, all of these outlets have a slant to them, and this is not like real. The things they're doing, this is just like manufactured.
Right. I want to go in once we're on this subject. Can we talk about Tucker and Fox?
I was going to say
your quick thoughts on this. Just specifically, like what you think. Obviously, they booted him. He was the number one guy there. What do you think are the effects to Fox, if any? Well,
I think you've seen them. I think their ratings have suffered. I think people are very upset with Fox. Tucker Carlson is a person who I think so many people really listened to, because Tucker was one of the few who was fully unafraid to say what he thought. He was bringing you the facts. He wasn't apologizing for it. And, you look at things like the January 6th tapes coming out that America needs to see that. We need to see, I want to see all of it. I want to see start to finish. I want to see all that footage. And for some reason, we got like a little blurb of it, and it really changed the way a lot of people had envisioned things. had happened at the Capitol that day. And we need that as a country. We need transparency. We need people who are going to be unapologetic in bringing us the facts and putting them out there. And so I do think it's hurt Fox. It sounds like from what I've gathered and the information that's available that this was part of their lawsuit with Dominion. This was like the settlement with Dominion in that, gigantic lawsuit that they settled. But, it certainly hurt their reputation, I think, with a lot of people, and no different than the, kind of post-2020 election where people were like, wait, Fox called Arizona before anyone else. What's going on here? And people got a little upset with that. I think people are a little upset with Fox, and I think they probably have some amends to make with people.
And it's true. You're saying it is true that both sides of the aisle, obviously now on the media side, are pandering to whatever they can pander to. And with Tucker Carlson used to work for CNN.
Right.
Like, people don't even remember that. He used to work for CNN, and you just see people even Megyn Kelly was at Fox. Then she went to NBC. Now she has her own independent thing. You just see nowadays with how people are going from network to network, and you can see that it's not about journalism anymore, and it's really just about what people can, how much you can get your message out there to a masses in order to influence someone to do something that you want them to do. And it's just not journalism anymore. It really is not. And you can see just based on the actions that are happening throughout the industry.
Yeah. And it's sad. It's actually frightening for this country because we really rely on journalists. We rely on people to give us information and truth and facts. And it's very hard to find. I mean, you really, where do people go to get true information? Where can you actually research something and know that what you have is factual? It's very hard these days to do that, and it's kind of scary.
And
I would argue that, probably is nowhere, if I'm being, if you're asking me. Yeah. One of the things, it's funny because a few people have asked me actually about this, about the Fox thing. I actually think Murdoch, the head of Fox, probably would say, honestly, probably what your father-in-law would say, and that's everyone's replaceable. All right, we lost Tucker. We'll find the next guy that's going to be the next Tucker. We didn't have Tucker before Megyn. We fired Megyn.
Well, yeah, they had the Bill O'Reilly who left.
Yeah,
they've been through situations.
At the end of the day, the corporation is going to run as a corporation.
Your father-in-law would probably say the exact same thing if I had to bet. I don't know him, obviously, but he'd probably be like, everyone's replaceable. This guy was great. We'll get the next great guy.
Business.
Yeah, business is business. Yeah. No one person is ever irreplaceable. I want to ask you, though, talking about all this stuff, do you see a path forward from your perspective? You've traveled the country. Do you see a path forward? As things stand right now, there's so much divide. There's no way you could get around that. Do you see a path forward to real unity, the left, the right, to some sort of I don't know, something maybe the country, the emotions could diffuse and people could kind of settle in with each other a little bit?
Unfortunately, I think it would take some sort of a horrific incident.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because it's really sad to think of that as being the only thing that would at this point unify people. But you think about America post September 11th. Yep. And there was such unity and there was such patriotism and love for one another. Nobody cared about any of this other crap because it's stupid.
I always say this. I was a child at that time, and I don't know anything about what the same way that people say journalism was real back in the day. They also say
unity.
Even Bill Clinton was president, 93 to 01. You didn't have Republicans and Democrats progressive, just bitching at each other. And then, 2001, 2008, everyone agrees 04 to 08, not a great job by Bush. Okay, we'll agree. But from 01 to 04 and even 04 to 08, there wasn't this divide. And I don't know for sure. I'm saying it to you the same way journalism they say is real. What was it like that back then? Kind of from 93 to 08, those 15 years, where I would say you were, probably more of age than we were to really gauge.
How old do you think I am? No, I'm just kidding.
You're older than I am.
It's fine. I just turned 40.
Okay. There you go.
No, I don't, there really wasn't this significant divide, but I just think that was such a humbling moment for America, September 11th, and it really reminded us that we are all in this together, that this country is, it's bigger than just each of us as individuals. It is about all of us coming together and helping one another and being unified. And I wish that there was some other solution that I saw because, gosh, I think we're all yearning for that. We all want there to be more unity in this country. But I'm afraid at this point it feels so divided that it may take some sort of a major incident like that to remind people, hey, all of this stuff is just nonsense. Like, at the end of the day, we're all Americans. We're all brothers and sisters in this country. We all are more alike than we are different. We all want the same things at the end of the day. We want to take care of our families. We want to be prosperous. We want to be successful, whatever it is. We all have the same fundamental goals. And it's just sad that it's hard to see, really hard to see how we really bring that back.
Well, Lara, I wanted to bring to light something you were talking about actually at the beginning, where you said that sometimes it feels like it's a fight of good versus evil in the country. But you're speaking so eloquently about what real unity feels like, and that brotherly and sisterly love that can exist in a country, even with different opinions. To you and to some extent to your family, is the words the left, not NBC, not the politicians, the left is in the human beings, the fathers, the mothers, the sisters, the brothers, the U.S. citizens, is that a dirty word? Are they the enemy?
I don't see anybody as the enemy. No, not at all. In fact, I have friends who consider themselves Democrats who...
I was going to ask if you have.
I do. I mean, it's not been easy. There's no doubt about it. But, I don't have to be only friends with people who voted for my father-in-law who think exactly the same way I do. I have friends from all different, backgrounds, walks of life, and political affiliations. And so, no, I don't think so. I think the mechanism behind the parties is a problem. I think that is very dirty. I think that is the evil out there. I think there are people who have made it their goal to tear down this country, to tell us we're a bad country, to tell us that this country was founded on horrible things by horrible people. We need to start over and we need to tear this place apart. That's bad to me, and that's something.
Are there people?
I don't agree with.
Are there people asking for that?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
I'm asking. I'm not so political myself. I know that I've definitely heard people who have gripes with some things in the Constitution or with some things the way the country's run. But I myself haven't come into contact with people who want to tear down the whole thing.
Well, I mean, you have to look at it kind of at a broader perspective. Look at the things that they're trying to encourage our kids to learn. Critical race theory, teaching kids that this country was founded on racism, that all of our fundamental institutions are racist, that you should judge people based on the color of their skin, not on the content of their character, that if you look a certain way, you are inherently disadvantaged. If you look another way, you are inherently advantaged. That is a horrible way to, raise a generation, to teach a generation of kids. And the only outcome of something like that is negative. Teaching kids that this country is bad, they're not going to stand up and fight for it if we ever have to. Teaching kids that they should judge one another based on how they look and not on who they are is a horrible way to operate. And so I can't see any other goal that people have by, influencing our youth in this way than to get them to turn against this country and turn against one another ultimately.
Or, potentially that they're trying to show the kids that there's a way that just because you were taught the way we were all taught in history books, there might be more going on. Look, there is a truth out there. I don't know what the actual truth is about whether there's systematic racism in the country or not. I just think that's way above my pay grade. I do know the truth is that a lot of people believe that there is. So, do we give grace to people to say that maybe the people pushing to teach critical race theory, or whether it's that issue or another hot-button issue, aren't coming from a place of trying to tear down the country, but are actually coming from a place of maybe we're bringing to things to light that, let's be honest, history can get, touched up a little bit sometimes.
Well, I think that not everyone who believes in those things is trying to tear apart this country, but I think there are some who probably wouldn't mind seeing this country fall and kind of rebuilding it in a different way,
The question really becomes, I think, not to get too philosophical and into too long of a conversation about this, But it's great to learn from history. We should always learn from history, but to focus on history as the condemnation and the end of this country, and therefore we have to start over, and nothing that is going on right now could be a good thing because there were problems with this country 200 years ago, I think is stupid. I think that's a false notion. Yeah, there were problems. There's problems with everything, and we continue, we learn, and we build, and we grow. And let's not just harness and just focus on the only negative thing that ever
therapy
happened in this country.
I don't think...
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about it as a general concept.
I don't think anyone wants to just focus on any one thing. I think the aim is for a balance.
Yeah, but the question is when it becomes not a balance and it becomes, like when you're trying to succeed, you don't focus on everything that's going wrong. You primarily focus on what's going well. You're grateful for all that is going on, and you keep in the background what needs to be changed. And I think that probably is
I would agree to that.
I mean, that's a very, but that's really what the country needs in general, I think, is, okay, there are problems that have happened. Let's work on those. But the goal is how can we continue to make this better and better and better.
Absolutely.
Not do it the opposite way around, which is,
In terms of having the country move forward, I know I harp on the mother thing, but in general, what are your biggest concerns for your children growing up?
Wow. Well, I mean, just as a generation of kids, I hope that they get to grow up in the same country that I grew up in, which was a beautiful place to live, that I always felt very fortunate to have been born in America. And I knew how lucky I was to live in this country, even as a young kid. I hope that, our kids of this generation feel proud to be an American and love this country, which I think is fundamental to keeping a country going. I do have major concerns with our education, with what happens ultimately with our standing on the world stage. I mean, there's no doubt China is chomping at the bit to take over as the superpower of the world. Every time we have some crazy discussion about race, about transgender issues, about whatever it is, China is loving it because we're taking our eye off of anything that could put us in a better position on the world stage. And they're like, oh, well, we'll just slip right here in the back door. We're really educating our kids. You guys have your kids twerking on TikTok. Like, those sort of things I think are a little frightening for me to see, like what might happen to this country by the time my kids have their own children, and will it be the same country or will we be a shell of ourselves? Those are fears that I have.
I have one other question. We're going a little long. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for...
In fact, let me see, because I do have to put my kids in bed. Oh, and it's 7:30.
Okay, fine. So if you're running late, we could hold it.
Wrap.
We can wrap.
We can wrap. If that's,
In a minute or so. Usually to this.
No, I just
right now, wrap up.
I just wanted to ask you your thoughts. I've been thinking about this for a little bit.
I just want your kids to know that they should forever be indebted to Mislaibeled right now because they're getting late bedtime.
Oh, so, I know they are.
So I just want it to be known. What was it? Carolina and Luke?
Yeah.
Just remember Sam, Label, and Zach when you get older.
Hold on, is Caroline close to Theo with Ivanka's kid? Are they like besties?
They're a little. The ages are kind of funny. My daughter is 3. Theo just turned 6, I think, and my son is 5. So they're all kind of in.
So then 5 and 6.
Yeah. So he's actually a little closer to my son.
I wasn't sure which one was older or younger.
Oh, and it's a real circus when this group gets together. Let me just tell you, it's a lot of stuff getting talked about.
I can imagine.
And then Baron comes in and just picks them up.
I know.
He picks them up like a clown, like a machine.
Dunks them.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, Baron is literally that like uncle that we all have. So I'm one of 10. So in a lot of families that are big families, the oldest kid is an uncle to the youngest.
Right.
And they're the same age, basically.
They're the same age.
So Baron is like that uncle that's like...
No, it's true. Yeah, it's so funny.
I just wanted to ask you, I had one other thing I wanted to ask, which was basically, obviously with every single candidate, every single presidency, someone's running for president, the goal is to win. And both sides generally will never, ever, there are certain groups within both sides that they will not condemn. Clearly, it always seems like, because they don't want to lose those parties' votes, because those votes, a lot of times, are the quote-unquote swing votes that make for a difference. What are your thoughts in general for both sides, whenever it happens, not condemning, let's say, a specific action of a specific group, right or left, as to like, basically harnessing on the fact that the ends justify the means, which, by the way, sometimes they do. Just what are your thoughts on that? Like, as an American or as someone who you like, you have to condemn those things?
Yeah,
Or are you
I
like-
mean, I think it frustrates a lot of people because we just really want to hear what the person actually thinks. And I feel like oftentimes they really can't say what they think because there are certain hot button issues that they know if we go here, then you're right, people aren't going to vote for us. But I think that is the failure of this party system. And it's hard because like I don't have another solution for it. And it is probably at this point, it's the best thing we've got right now in America. But it's hard because you're right. I think there are certain things that people get very nervous about.
Yeah.
But you know, it would be nice to hear people's like full censored thoughts on things.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I hear that.
Yeah.
And by the way, very nicely said. I agree. No, there are so many people. There are always a lot of times, honestly, when you're following those things, I'm like, I know exactly what you're thinking. Just say it. Just let's be real. I know what you're thinking. If we were in a room together, you'd be like, this motherfucker. Like, you would go at it, no questions. You know? All right, fine. Guys.
Good, yeah.
Lara.
Yeah.
I want to say thank you so much. By the way, from all of us, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. As I said in the beginning, honored and humbled and truly grateful for you sitting down with us. I want to thank everyone, you know who you are, for helping make this happen. Thank you. Guys, I hope you enjoy watching this. I had a great time.
I had an amazing time. I was going to say at the beginning of the podcast, like, we always have that nerves of, like, when you're meeting someone for the first time, it's like you're going on a first date, like, meeting someone for the first time, you just don't know what their personality was going to be like. The second you walk in the room, like, you're just chilling. Yeah. You're just like, oh, that cup's on the table. Let me go get that for you. You're
I
like,
wanted a nice background for us.
yeah.
Make sure we didn't have a
you're
dirty
just
cup
like,
on the
I'm chilling. I'm chilling.
We're good.
Yeah, you
Well,
were
thank you guys.
truly. you were
Honestly, for me, it made it a lot easier. I was like, okay, let's
Good.
chill.
Yeah, thanks for not being really mean. We appreciate that.
Well, I'm sure that's my reputation out there. So, no, thank you guys. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on, and good luck with all of it.
Yeah, Lara, thank you
Appreciate it.
again. Guys, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Peace and love. Like and subscribe. Sayonara.